What's going on, everyone? Andres here, and we have another episode of the Ponytails Podcast, number 173. Welcome to the show. If this is your first time and you sold books, well, we did too, and we talk about it, so enjoy. If this isn't your first time and you've been here for a while, thanks for supporting us. Thanks for listening in again. So excited that you're here. Hopefully, by this time, you've left us a review, you followed us on Instagram, you've done all the things that good book kids do. And all bad book kids do too. All of the book kids be great. Anyway, we actually do appreciate the support. If you guys would love to do that, that is a great way to support us without having to do much. Maybe while you're just listening to this at the gym, put that weight down, hit subscribe, or maybe you're listening to this while doing the dishes. Stop, dry your hands, leave us a review, follow us, hit subscribe, the little plus sign on your podcast app, wherever you're listening. Hopefully you guys do that. It means a lot to us if you would. If you have never heard of this, if you don't know what the heck we're doing, maybe you didn't sell books and you're like, what the hell? Why is it even called Ponytails Podcast? Well, quick synopsis. A company in 1865 started recruiting college kids to go door to door selling books. And they sold these books throughout their college summer. So it was like 12 weeks, right? And they've been doing that ever since. So here we are in 2022. There's still kids that did this is just last summer. And basically you go from Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to sometimes 10 p.m. on straight commission in a different part of the country, just doing this. Naturally, some crazy ass stories come up. And so we have people come on the show and tell us about their experience doing that and how that experience shaped their life and their careers moving forward. Some of them have been inspiring. Some of them have been intense, really dramatic. Some were hilarious. It's been the whole thing. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. Keep an eye out for more episodes. We come out with episodes usually every Friday and Sunday, but sometimes we'll just drop a random one here or there. Go check out some more. They're everywhere that you're listening to podcasts. If you're on YouTube right now, we know we're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, whatever you prefer. There are things that will come up on the screen that are better for people to read if you don't know, if you miss like a definition, or if we say like a word that's kind of like slang. So maybe it's worth watching your first episode if you have no idea what we're talking about. But if you did sell books, you'll be like, oh, I remember the HQ. Oh, I know what an OL is. I remember the old pace setter. Oh yeah, GRS. I know what I'm talking about. So that kind of stuff. Let me introduce our guest for today. I'm so excited. So we have Jake Hartigan in the house. He sold for 4 summers with the Eagle Blitz organization. And he sold from 2014 to 2017, went to the University of Central Florida, and they're in Orlando, I believe. And then, of course, from Boca Raton, his favorite scroll is, I don't think we've had this one yet. And I'm so excited that someone put this because I'm a big fan of action. It was number 9, I Will Act Now, which is awesome. That's a great thing to say to yourself every day, every minute, every hour. So in a sec, we'll be back with Jake, Ponytails Podcast. Let's get out of schedule for a sec. Talk about Will Metscher, who helps people get their own way. Move, bish. Get out the way. Go work with Will. Okay, back to work. Being off schedule for a quick second to spotlight a jockey of ours. Cardinal Seated Benefits helps families who have old people in their life and they're going to die. So they help them with final expense insurance. And it's pretty badass. So back to work. Hello.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah, knock
that
closer.
Intro.
Really?
Yeah, how's it going? Yeah, no, I liked it. That was cool.
Oh man, have you been on podcasts before? Is this your first podcast interview?
I've been on other podcasts, not on video podcasts. And then I've run a bunch of videos and introductions and other things. And I love the theme that you've got running. It's so cohesive. It's really fun.
Cool, man. I ad lib it every time, so I just have fun with it. I act now, in the moment.
Yeah, immediately.
Like right now. That's awesome, man. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Your setup is your mic is so nice. Look at you. You just all
thank you.
Fully loaded. Look at this.
Yeah,
You sound crisp.
I saw yours on another podcast, and I just bought it for fun. No,
I was gonna say no. I was like, that's an expensive.
I wish that was it. Yeah.
It's like you got money like that to just let's just buy this setup for this interview. That means probably not
honestly
much.
Though I do wish I used it more. I have it here, but I've used it a handful of times, so I'm glad I get to use this on the podcast here.
Hey, well, at least we're making it worth your time when you bought it. But to be honest with you, I mean, after the pandy, when shit hit the fan a couple years ago, I feel like a lot of people really started investing in their home setup, and so it's been nice to kind of have that as the pandemic progressed and kept going, because we started in November of 2020, so only like 6-7 months in.
Oh yeah.
But as time has gone through, you see more and more of this where people are like actually have a full setup, even if it's just for work, So
Yeah,
I'm glad
no,
that here. You sound good.
I'm work from home, and it's half my setup is from during the pandemic. No, all of it's from during the pandemic. And it's just
Same.
it's migrated from one apartment to the next, and it's slowly grown in technology. I could show you some of it. It's pretty crazy. Let me see if
let's see this. Let's see if people listening are like,
I don't know
what
if I
the
can.
hell?
I'm just waving it around. Oh gosh, whole rooms here.
Whoa. Oh man. Oh, you got like the whole setup set up. Dang. Oh wait, you muted yourself. I think you muted somehow. Something must have got disconnected.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
So
back.
this month was from the company I was previously working at, and then I snagged this Cintiq, which is for basically drawing, being able to see what I'm working on. It was like a childhood dream to have that. It's basically this 24-inch screen that I can just directly work on when I'm working with a stylist. And it's normally incredibly expensive, but post-pandemic, there were a lot of artists who were out of work, and there was one that was available and they weren't using it. So I got it for like half off, which is great.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. That's a solid setup. I can't move my camera, but I just got these sound booth setups for like the sound of it. But yeah, it works really, really well for us here on this side. It's cool to work from home. It's been nice, honestly, to just be here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think your mic got disconnected, so you might have to put your mic, because I think I'm coming in through your headphones now.
How's it going? I shouldn't have just gone off script right there and just
No, it's okay, man. We're flexible. We touch our toes here as book people. I think you're back now. Oh,
I switched it over again.
Yeah. How crisp is that? Dang, dude, you got a nice voice.
Thank you.
Like, I see what you do introductions. It's like I see it. But speaking of which, okay, so let's dive in. So what the heck? But for people who don't know, we don't do any pre-approach here, so I actually have no real idea of like what your life has been like since you left Southwestern. So let's start there, and then maybe we can afterwards go jump back into your Southwestern career first. So walk me through since 2017 and when you left to 2022. What have you been up to, and what are you up to now?
Yeah, so to kind of carry it through, I might actually start just before I sold books, blow through selling books, and then kind of move past it, because it's kind of come full circle. When I was in kindergarten, I drew an airplane and everyone wanted it. And that was the moment I knew I was going to be an artist when I grew up. And it was just a defining moment. But I was raised by two engineers, both my parents, mechanical and electrical, respectively. So I went to UCF for mechanical engineering initially. And
dude, check out the big brains on the Hartigans. Holy cow.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of them are pretty sharp. So I didn't finish in engineering. So I was just grinding along my freshman year. I was just not motivated. I didn't find this like sense of intrinsic value from it. And it just wasn't clicking. But I met some pretty interesting people. They told me you should go do this thing and sell books. And I was like, that sounds something like my uncle did. And I ended up calling him up, and he had sold books years ago for 4 summers. And he said he hated every minute of it. And he would like be sick every day. And I was like, that sounds horrible. I'm in. Because that sounds awesome. Just because I knew where he was in his life and the amount of success that he had found in business was just was liberating. And I saw that from him. And he was well-traveled. He came with all of like different family members on their vacations because he was just that successful. And I was like, I want that. I want some sense of control over sales and business, which I was seeing left and right. And it was influencing me, but I didn't know how or why. So I went, sold books, learned a lot, not easily. I wasn't good at learning, like I mentioned. So it was a long 4 summers to eventually graduate and go into a career. And so that's where I left in 2017. That was like my last summer as an OL. I was like, I kind of checked off, most of the stages of development through Southwestern. I got a sense of it. I didn't feel like I had really mastered it, but
sure,
I had at least seen and experienced it. And so I was like, I need to quickly change and move, because the way I was seeing from what I was learning in my now new degree in business, and then what I was learning freelancing as an artist, was that there's a trend towards technology, towards innovation on the digital more than
100%.
it is through just in-person stuff. And I have a pretty astounding ambition for someone who's just an artist. I didn't want to be a starving artist. I wanted to be someone who was actually making an impact on a lot of people. And so I was looking towards tech, got a small gig doing basically business development. So it's like basically the hardest part of sales, just knocking for a small startup in Orlando, which then landed me a position at a company called Samsara that just went public as of last year or earlier this year, I think. So I was there for about a year and a half after graduation. So in 2019 to the pandemic, and then into the pandemic several months. And I got to be honest, sales as a business development rep, which is just basically cold calling and then handing the sales opportunity to somebody else to close, just not motivating. It's just you're like so close to tasting a sale and like that feeling of accomplishment when you close the deal, and like even just trying to overcome those objections from like a closing perspective was something I was just so excited to get into. And because of the pandemic and the way the startup had developed, specifically at Samsara, they had to lay off a third of the company, and I was still on the team. They still wanted me, but the track to promotion and being able to move up was just so constricted and slowed that it was just wall after wall I was seeing. And like I said, I have a lot of ambition, and that act now comes up again where I was like, I'm just waiting to be an artist. I'm just waiting to do my own thing. I'm done waiting. And so I left Samsara. I went and studied UX design, which is for user experience. And basically taking what I learned in art, understanding what I knew about human psychology and business, and what I learned from Southwestern intuitively, by doing it again and again. And what makes decisions, I was like, I'm going to take that and put that into software, and I'm going to use my artistic skills to design it and work from production of a product instead of just sales alone. Fast forward 6 months from there, I'm now working with, or actually it's been a year and a half since I graduated from that UX degree program that I was doing. And I'm working at a startup with another guy who sold books that I recruited. His name's Peyton Cox. And so we've created a fitness app, and it's literally like, it's weeks away from launching. So what we need is, from like this podcast, and for anyone who's listening right now, I'm going to ask at the end for you guys to check it out. But that's what I'm working on right now. And I've come all the way around to being a artist who does front-end development, which is a bit technical. And I wasn't planning on that, but it's just that the role required it and needed to learn it. I needed to do something uncomfortable and figure it out. And that was what happened. So right now I'm working in software that I never thought I would ever do. I thought I would just stick to sales, do marketing maybe, and do art as a hobby. But now it's literally integrated with every day of my life. So it's pretty exciting.
That's sick.
And a lot of that happened from just one event after another. That was a long answer to your short question.
No, that's great. I have a lot of questions. I have so many questions. One, I need to connect you with Elevate Wellness. That's Seth Hood. You know Seth, probably. He sold as well.
Naomi already put us in touch. So
okay, great.
I talked with Seth and his business partner several months ago, and I was lamenting how hard it was to make an app. Yeah, it's
difficult, man. It's so tough. And so tell me more, or I guess I know sometimes before you launch apps, you can't really share much because of the nature of development stuff.
I'm very open. Go ahead.
Cool. Yeah. How does this app do? I mean, fitness app is so general. So like, what is the user experience like, and what is the purpose of this app that you're developing?
Right. So to get to the core problem that we were trying to solve, most fitness apps out there have two kind of major roles that they play. There's like coaching apps that I think Seth is hoping to try and create, where you have a better solution for working with clients remotely. Like you can go to the gym face to face. It's hard to beat that. If you're in person, you have so many levels of communication. You can work hand in hand with them. You can look at the same computer screen. You can see their charts. And that's probably the best case, but that's not the most scalable. You can't reach as many people as you want. So you have to leave a lot of clients on the table because you can't work with them remotely, only in person, unless you have some sort of technology to let you do that. So some apps try to tackle that, but then they also fall short in the other reason for fitness apps, which is just individual people trying to track on their own, trying to figure out, how do I improve day to day and improve my physical physique or my performance over time. And then there's this gap right between those two, which is how many people want to have long-term success by, let's say, building muscle and increasing their performance. And we know that it's not easy. It takes time. And that's just not how most things are designed. They're just walk into a gym and log your workout that day. Or you can buy a program and like basically look at a PDF and take that and put that into your workout app on your own. You get overwhelmed trying to do that, you go to a coach. But then the coaches have to deal with these apps that aren't meeting the needs of being able to schedule over a long period of time. And we all know, as book people, schedule is your lifeline. So our program app basically helps you schedule all of your programs, all of your workouts over a period of like 3 to 6 months, depending on what you're doing. Coaches can go in, set them up, schedule them out, and then monitor your performance over time. And for self-starters like myself, or others who want to do it on their own, they can figure out how to go in, create a long-term solution to building muscle and developing their performance through our app. So that's the primary goal. And it's a bit nuanced for fitness. We're working specifically with powerlifting at first because my business partner, Peyton, used to compete back in high school, and he was like number 17 in the world. And right now we run a podcast with a guy named Ashton Rauska, who's the strongest powerlifter in the world for natural powerlifting, which means he doesn't use steroids. And he's tested every time he goes to compete as regularly as possible. So he's just a monster. I mean, watching him move weights is like another thing. Yeah.
So, it's especially like up front is like when you, witnessing people do that. Some people are nuts. Just witnessing people do something that most people can't is crazy. But that's okay. So does then your app, because you're saying you're bridging the gap of like tracking things as well. So will your app be able to also track like nutrition and all that kind of stuff? Or is it just specifically like the scheduling of the actual workouts in the program itself?
So right now, what we're doing, we have clients that we're working with one-on-one where we do nutrition with them. Peyton has his own coaching solution where he works with them, runs all of the advanced data through his own spreadsheets that he's built. What we're trying to do is take those piece by piece. So the first one will be specifically lifting. Eventually, it will be nutrition, sleep, and a lot of other things that go into your actual development. Because it's not just that you can go and lift a weight. You need to have so many other components that come together and work in harmony over that time. And that's, again, why it's such an important long-term problem, not a day-to-day issue, to see improvements consistently. So we're starting with lifting, but we will have nutrition and other features that we roll out as soon as possible.
That is awesome, dude. That's so cool. And what would you say from a standpoint now of like the process itself? What has been the most challenging process of developing this app because it's from scratch, right? So like what in your head, because everybody has different problems to different things based on their expertise and knowledge. What has been like the biggest obstacle that you bumped into to get from A to B here?
So this is something that this is a great question, because when I set about creating a company, and I've started multiple, I've closed successfully a few, others not. Awesome. Some good, some bad. There's a lot of projects, but
some
in most
may be
cases,
good, some may be shit.
Yes, exactly that. Most of may be shit, but a couple really good.
That's such a good name. That's such a good name. Awesome.
I mean, it's relatable because there's so many things that can go wrong, and they do go wrong. It's like Murphy's Law. And that's the hardest part, is managing what you do not know. So where in the book field, schedule's your lifeline, because you know what you need to do. You got to show up, you get your 30 demos, and if you play the numbers, it works. But when you're creating something from nothing, it's not so straightforward. It's not, I know when this is due, I'm going to get it done. I've set timelines, and they've been blown by developers, by legal, by so many other things, that you set a plan and something happens. So what we've come full circle in our business is from, we can do everything in the world under the sun, in the world of health and fitness, to we're doing one thing really specifically. So narrowing what the achievement and goal was one of the hardest things, because we have the ability, and many book people probably struggle with this, where you have so much potential and you can do so many things, but giving up some of that for the future. And this is like procrastinate on purpose. I'm forgetting his name.
Rory Vaden.
Yeah, Rory. So taking some of those things that you want to do and know you can do and putting them off is really challenging, and specifically tackling one problem. And then the next was, how do you monitor that and like actually execute on a schedule that you can't predict perfectly? So we tried to do it on our own. We tried all of the team members to learn software. At first, there were 4. There's now 2 in the business. We've had to like cut back as we've moved through and uncovered many uncertainties.
Understand that. Oh,
yeah. But what we learned was a lot of different software techniques that led me to being the front end developer. But we've now hired a partner who's a developer and is unbelievably talented and working in the back end of the software, which handles all of the brains and stores it somewhere else. I can do the aesthetics, I can do the interactions that people see when they tap on a button, but making that effective and storing that information, that's what he handles. And learning to find someone who can do that for us took a few tries and a lot of mistakes. So that's probably been the hardest, most expensive lessons we've learned. And it's honestly like when you're an OL, learning for the first time that people don't follow their schedule and the things they'll do.
What? When people go home early?
Really?
Champions? Nobody said this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Early champions. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
so those are
true.
It's true. And
we had Barry Hart on the show, and he one of the things that's been a really cool blessing about doing this show and being on this seat has been being able to like kind of pick people's brains. And for myself, even if nobody else listens, by the way, like people should listen to a lot of these because there's so much gold nuggets of wisdom like this in every episode for different industries that kind of apply to others. But in case in point is Barry Hart, who owns a pharmaceutical company with another book guy. He's awesome. Barry's great. He was talking about, I heard this before, but the way he put it was really smart. He was like, look, there's people out there in your life and in the world who get a kick, almost a pleasure out of doing the things in your business that you are either not good at, don't have the time to learn, or just don't want to do. And so you can find those people. And so like you just mentioned, like finding a person that can do like the software development back-end stuff, where it's like, not that you can't do it, not that you don't know how to do it, right? But it's just like,
no, I can't. Not fast
you know
enough.
What I'm saying?
That's the key.
Exactly. So it's like, but there's someone out there who's like, it's like popping a zit to them. Like it feels amazing, right? So sorry, yeah. But you know what I'm saying? So like finding that is just the better way of doing it. And like you said, in Southwestern, you don't really learn how to do that because the strength of the company is that it's been around for 160 years, but the weakness of the company is that it's been around for 160 years. And so what happens is these systems are so in place, they're almost like stone pillars that are immovable, where it's like it's hard for the company to really change and transition into something new, especially as quickly as technology has moved. That it's like you just go, they tell you go knock on 30, meet 30 people and you'll be fine, like you said. But when you do it on your own, you're like, I don't even know what 30 people means here. Like what does that translate to into my world, right? And so setting those systems in place and having people help you set those in place, huge lesson that you've learned there. And honestly, those are like the big ones to just really overcome, so that you can clear a path and have a much clearer sense of direction as you move forward, because you have a solid team around you that's really happy and enjoying that work. So hell yeah, man, that's awesome. That's so cool.
I was gonna ask you too, because like you're doing your own thing, you're on your entrepreneurial journey. How did you basically find your thing, and how did you come down to knowing? And how do you handle schedule in something that can be very uncertain?
Right. Well, you're talking from a standpoint of running the podcast, or are you talking from a standpoint of like, okay. Kind of the same way as you, just through mistakes. For me to answer your question, I had to find out what I actually was good at. And like you said, there's so many things that after you sell books, you feel like you get excited about. So you set the habit to learn about it, and then you start coming to realize that it's like, oh, this isn't the thing that gives me I enjoyed learning about this. I enjoyed learning about for example, to answer your question specifically, SEO, marketing stuff, I enjoy learning about that stuff. It's really fun. But at the end of the day, to sit down and search for keywords, backlinks, setting up funnels, like I know how to do that, and there is value in learning that. There's value in learning that because two things. One, it's just worth knowing. There's like a lot, and two, when I'm hiring someone or trying to partner up with someone to do this with me, I know what I'm looking for and I know what it should be worth because I at least have learned enough to know what I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so
that's very much entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And so I learned it just so I could get to that point. And then I go, okay, now I know that I need to hire someone or partner up with someone who can help me do this. And that's what I did. So as we started coming up with that, I started thinking like, what would be, I kind of reverse engineered it. So, and I'm not here yet, but my goal is the ideal goal is that all I have to do is just show up, say hello to you, talk to you for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, go away, and then go play with my dogs. Like that's the North Star because that's the part of me that I enjoy. Right. And so, and I know that sounds like idealistic or whatever, but I believe that we can get there. We're not there yet and we're close, but that's what I figured out. What I do best is just do this. This is my thing. I learned, it was like an acquired learning. I have a passion for stand-up. I think I've talked about this on the show before, but my passion is to do stand-up comedy. That's the one thing where I did that and I'm like, oh my God, this is what I was put on earth to do. That was my talent. But this is the other kind of talent that you start going, oh, I didn't know I was good at this. And I'm not saying I'm, the most amazing interviewer. I'm not saying I'm the most amazing interviewer, but I just really do enjoy the curiosity of learning about an app. And, yesterday we talked to someone else and we learned about a whole different thing in real estate. And we talked about, before that, we talked about fitness and whatever, right? So the thing I learned that I need to be good at is being curious and meeting book people. And so our mission then, as we kind of clear the path and it turn from hobby to full-time gig, is I'm like, okay, so this is what I enjoy doing. Then I started with like, okay, why is this important? What do people get out of this? What do our guests say that they enjoy? And we landed at, which to answer your question fully, is there exists a need in our community of alumni people that sold books for some transparency, for some real world hero off schedule moment. Wanted to tell you about Southwestern Real Estate. They're 99% drama free, only 99, not 99.9. So it's a bit spicy, kind of like this episode. Anyway, they will learn you to kick ass at real estate. So make sure you guys click the link below, get in touch with them. Okay, back to work. Bye. What up, everyone? Off schedule story really quick. The average agent at Cardinal Cedar Benefits earns about $5,000 per week. It's pretty badass. So on that note, connection. And so when you go and sell books, one of the things that they tell you about is, oh, you're going to travel, you're going to do this. But when you're done, there's 100,000 people that have done, 150,000 people that have done this. And when you leave Southwestern, all of the doors will open for you and everything you've ever wanted to do will be done. And you're like, all right, cool. The network's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you leave Southwestern and you're like, where the fuck are all these people? You know what I mean? So
you
that's what we do.
into them.
So that's what we do. So our goal is to grow enough. I don't need to be Joe Rogan. I don't want to be. I mean, it'd be great if like we became that popular for some reason. And this is
That'd be
and
great.
it's an interesting
That'd be
an interesting enough conversation with people, and people who didn't sell books are interested enough in what we did to like. So maybe there's a path there. But to me, I'd be happy if we kind of became the de facto unofficial alumni association where, oh, you sold books and you want to, and you're an engineer or you're developing an app and you just want to be put on blast to 100,000 book people overnight. Cool. Come on the show, talk about what you're doing, have a connection. People will listen. And out of that, those doors will be open. Right. And so that's kind of what we landed at once I figured all that shit out about like, why do I enjoy doing this? Why is this important? Because now we're 173 episodes in. And if you were to ask me, hey, do you know anybody that does this? I'm like, well, out of the 173, I can think of like a couple of people that you should probably talk to. Right. Or whatever. And the more and more we do this, just the more and more it'll happen, which is why it's so important to me that people share and like and follow, is because it just becomes that by nature. Right. And so hopefully that answers your question. Sorry, I'm talking during your
No, that's
episode.
perfect. It's a hard question to answer because that's what did you find in the entrepreneurial experience? Yeah.
And that's what we found that was important. So that's like, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I don't know if it'll ever be $1 million company, but I don't need it to be. I just need it to be sustainable so that it can play that role in what is going to continue to be more and more Southwestern people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And just to serve that purpose, because it doesn't. Nobody else is doing it. Not the company's not doing it. So
no. The
you know what I'm saying?
closest I think is like thinking ahead, placing you somewhere, and that they want to be your network.
Yeah. And so, that's exactly right. But instead of like even helping people find like placements too, like it'd be just, for example, the dream would be Russia invaded Ukraine and there was a lot of need for supplies and money. It'd be cool to be like, all right, all of the alumni in the Midwest versus all the alumni in the Southeast, we're going to do a competition. Whoever can raise the most money, right? It's all going to go to this charity, but it's going to be, Chicago or Illinois alumni versus Florida alumni. And we'll do a tournament. And it's something like that, where it's just, we can harness the power of the Southwestern people, which is really, really a lot of power, and turn it to something that's worth and good and change maybe history. I don't know. That's maybe dare to dream.
No, that's awesome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
I had thought about that a lot when I was selling books, going door to door, and everyone had such cool stories when they'd stumble into meeting someone who sold books. And I don't know if I ever met someone when I was selling that had sold books. I think there was one guy, actually, maybe one, but it wasn't like super exciting. He had like sold half a summer, early champion kind of thing. But but I would hear so many like people, they'd come back. I was just at this massive house and he sold 4 summers. We were just hanging out for like hours. I'm like, did you hit all your doors? They're like, no, but he was so cool and he bought all my books. I'm like, all right, like, I guess that's pretty cool. Like, yeah. It's just,
go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was going to ask you, have you met an alumni in the wild after? Because that's a moment. That's what inspired the show, by the way. But if you've had that experience, it's a trip.
I definitely have used the network to find people. So when I was looking for that tech role in sales, I reached out to Josh Stralko and he showed me around Salesforce where he's working out. And so that put my eyes on Atlanta as like a whole. And so that's where Samsara is. That's where I am now, from Florida to Atlanta. So that was part of what led me to there. But in like just stumbling into people, I guess I don't stumble around a lot. I tend to be very like, if I'm out stumbling in places, it's on a hike somewhere, so it's very remote and there's not a lot of people. I guess there are people I do run into who I know from who sold books. Like I was traveling to Hawaii. My fiance was just saying, like, you show up places and people come out of nowhere. I'm like, but I knew the guy. So, I can't think of his name, but we basically bumped in. He's like, did you sell books? It was at a hostel. So it's just like a bunch of random people who all lived there. And I didn't recognize him because he grew a mustache and was wearing a hat. So he was like in one of those like almost incognito looking people. And he's like, you sold books.
Just running from the CAA.
Yeah, I don't know. It felt like that. But so he was like, you sold books, definitely. And I was like, yeah, I did. And we had like a bump in a couple of times on Sizzler or at GRS.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was super cool. And like, that's happened many times where I've bumped into people I knew in places I just would never expect. With sold books.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, we have quite a following in Atlanta, actually. So Steve Hurley, he's out there. Brandon Abernathy and his wife Malice, they're out there.
We'll have to
Brandon. We want to do like a alumni reunion out there so people can come and network and hang out and say hello.
Cool.
So that'll be something that we're trying to get that done, but just a lot of projects in the So, but dude, it's a trip when you run into someone just by habit. You just gonna go, oh man, okay, you're not gonna, because the way it happened to me is I was the last time big time that happened to me that was hilarious. My wife, her dad has a friend, Alan Wood, who sold books in like the 70s, like with Dan Moore.
Wow.
And he was just like talking to me. We were just having a conversation. He's like, where did you learn to like communicate with this, like with people like this? And I'm like, oh, okay, you're not going to believe this, but I did this thing in college where I sold books door to door. And he goes, no. And he starts like doing execs. I'm like,
yeah, that's when you know they're real.
I go, you drank that Kool-Aid, man. That's years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
That's
for
so
sure.
funny.
That's awesome, man. So, okay, wait, real quick, back to your app. I wanted to ask a couple more questions, and then we can do some Southwestern stuff, some Southwestern experience stories. But
Yeah.
with your app, so we kind of talked a little bit about what like the North Star is to eventually turn it into like, multifaceted fitness and health. But why fitness? Like why not like an app for, finding your child if it's lost, or what I'm saying? Like, how did you land at that
Talk
moment?
about children like they're dogs, and you just they already have solutions for that. That's like the little Apple AirTag. You just slap
put
that
it
on
your
them.
kids like
Right on
lunchbox.
their I know where they are. I mean, so the thing about those, like when I was selling GPS, you'd be amazed how many people would call and go, "How do I get this for my kids?" I'm like, "This is a brick. It's like this big. You're gonna stick it on a $2 million pieces of equipment. It's not for kids going to school." Also, why are you doing that? Just have a little faith, But so
Also, your phone, you can do it on your phone.
yeah, you can use your phone. I
If
end
you
up
have an
telling people
iPhone,
that
you can have them do that.
yeah, I told a few people, I'm like, what you really need is like an app. Like you don't need to be that specific. It's their parenting problem, not mine. The main core reason we did end up on fitness, and specifically like health as a whole, Peyton, my business partner, and I had talked a while back about creating a dashboard. Like if I woke up and I like started my day like Iron Man and I had this display that came up, what would I want to know? And the reason was that there are so many things that we're trying to juggle in our minds at any time. And we could really only focus on like maybe 7 if we hold those things in memory. So what I've learned, especially like with selling books, you build little by little, you stack habits on each other and you focus on just the next most important habit. You don't try to do them all. And then with health, you're trying to see things that are almost invisible. You can feel it, but you don't necessarily know what's wrong. So like if you're lifting at the gym and you're putting up as much weight as you can and you're doing all of the right things, but you're not making progress, it may not be the lifting. It could be the nutrition. It could be your sleep. It could be some other issue that you just can't see.
Hydration. Yeah. All sorts of.
There's so many things. Yes. And so that it is complicated, but you don't need to be complicated to see amazing results. You just need to know what's going on and to see what's the next most important thing. So that all ties in together, because if your health is falling apart, that is going to immediately affect everything else in your life. I know Mitch Johnston on the previous show had mentioned that. I know that's something that's come up in other shows that I've heard as well, that if you can't figure out your health, your focus and everything else falls with that. I mean, a classic example is even in intelligence, when they're measuring IQ, right?
Yeah.
There are lower IQs in places where they don't have enough nutrition for kids. So those lunches in schools and breakfasts are designed to supplement nutrition so that the IQ level of all of those kids goes up, because if you can't focus, you're not going to pass a test. And so those core, like he said, Maslow's in the previous episode, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it starts with physical well-being and like shelter and the core things. And then you get to thinking, then you get to higher level achievement. And to be honest, I don't think we want to think about all the time, how am I feeling? I would rather just put that on autopilot, right? I would rather not worry about it. So that's what this app will eventually become, is the autopilot for things in the background. And we only need to worry when it says, hey, you're not getting enough sleep, which is probably the biggest problem you're facing right now. You might want to solve that habit first. And so you start there.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Love it. Hell yeah, man. That's so cool. I'm so intrigued. Your intelligence for this is, I mean, I just talk to people. What you're doing is like out here changing people's lives. So I'm so like honored that you're here talking to me about this.
I mean,
so
you're definitely changing people's lives. Don't think that a network of communication with people is not an amazing thing. So here, like Peyton, my business partner, I met him at like a coffee shop on campus and we started hanging out a bit. He started showing me to the gym and I started being the only person who could consistently show up. And he's like, what do you do that like gets you to do this? And I've recruited people by the same way. It's just, I just do a thing so long. They're just like, what is wrong with you? I want that. and that was my first recruit. It was my second and him and fourth and on. But like, he came out to sell books with me because of the consistency in how I focused on a goal and just moved through it. If you put someone in touch with a book man, woman, like whoever, they're going to help them. Like, I don't think there is a net negative effect when you meet. Yeah. Like if you have people who sold books and really got what was offering to them, like they're going to share it with people and it will infect them. Like I had a roommate even who didn't sell books, but he's like, I was just better when I was hanging out with you. I was more on schedule. I cared more about what I was doing, and just being near you was helpful. And so what you're doing is creating a network of very do it yourself and get it done and stay with it positive people. That is probably one of the most influential effects. And we will have that at some point. Yeah. I mean, in the app, hopefully we'll add like a community section. So there is some of that going on.
Heck yeah. I know. I appreciate that. And I know what you mean. Our producer, Amy, she didn't sell books, but she, just like by hanging out and like learning around, like doing this a lot, hanging out with me, like she reads Og Mandino every morning now. And she and that's really helped her organize. And like, so I understand what you mean by it. Did your fiance sell books?
No. So I tried to recruit her and she's like, but we could go to China. And I was like, that's pretty cool. So
China's pretty sweet.
Yeah. And I had just achieved OL the previous summer, and I had a great summer. It was a lot of fun. And I like finished out with I Want to Win back to back. And it was just, I had like felt like I had finished on a high note and I was ready to take the next steps because I knew I had so many things in my long-term roadmap that I wanted to accomplish in my life. I mean, by 30, I have a lot of stuff to catch up on. I'm 27 now, and there's only 3 years left, and I'm halfway through the first. So I had a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish, and she's been a huge part of that. And it was just the right time to transition from sales and selling books to technology specific focus. Because that summer, that's when I got that position to do sales for that startup called Informulate. And so it was a difficult decision to leave Southwestern. And I think you mentioned that as one of the core values of this podcast is you're real. Like you're telling them like, it's going to hurt. I mean, they don't make it easy to leave.
No,
and it shouldn't be easy, but I also think it shouldn't hurt so much in some ways. Yeah. That's one of the things that you get burned one way or another. And
yeah, I understand that for sure. You know, my wife didn't sell books either, but she's learned a lot of like, she says she's met a lot of book people naturally. She went to Bisler with us, and she's like, you guys are different people. Like, yes. It's like it's a different kind of human being. I'm like, it takes somebody to be like door to door, 80 hours a week on commission. Yes,
deal.
Like your uncle. It sucked. Great. Yeah. I want it to suck for me too. So hell yeah. Well, let's move into some Southwestern stuff while I have you here for a little bit. But before we do that, how can people get a hold of you? Maybe someone listening is like, hey, how do maybe they want to sponsor you, maybe they want to get a hold of you to help maybe work for you. What's the best way to reach you that you would prefer people contact you at, and how can
any way possible? They should go through you first, and then you can point them to me, because that you get more people through you. But if it's easier, we have a website, apace.io. So APACE, apace.io.
APACE.io. Right?
Yep. So I'm still building out the website. I'll get that fixed. Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll put that link also below so people can, like, if they're listening, they can just click on it and check it out. Okay.
And if they want to email me, they can email me at Jake Hartigan at apace.io.
Hartigan at apace.io. Okay. Just like this.
If you want to go directly to me, it's like my DMs, basically.
Cool. Slide into Jake's DMs, baby. Otherwise, if you guys don't want to go through all that, just go ahead and leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube, or just, reach out to us on Instagram on the podcast, and we can connect you to Jake so you guys can learn more about it. Maybe you want to participate. Maybe you're a power lifter and you want to figure out how, something like that.
That is a big thing. So we're looking for beta testers to be able to go and work through the first few weeks of our summer on this app. Basically, a lot of broken stuff, but we're trying to make it as fun and intuitive as possible. So anyone who signs up for the app when it goes live in December will have access to several programs for free and be able to use it. They'll be able to find out about that on the website. And everyone who uses it before December 31st will have access for free. After that, it'll be paid.
Okay. I have a couple people actually to send you right off the bat anyway. So after we're done here, I'll remind me to
excellent. Yeah, thank you.
Connect you with some people. Yeah. For sure. Cool. That's awesome, man. Congratulations. So cool. And here's the thing, we're gonna have you back on once you launch and stuff to kind of keep chatting some more and to see how it's going. So
yeah, I'll tell you all of the heartaches and pain. I know.
For real.
I've just learned this process, and I've kind of learned to enjoy finding these problems, as opposed to it being like, oh no, something's gonna go wrong. I go, oh, something's gonna go wrong, and it's gonna be so satisfying when you just pop that zit and fix it.
Yeah, pop that zit, baby. It feels so good. Or okay, if that's gross for people, maybe it's when you like crack your back and it just like really hits the spot, like when you're like
your knuckles.
Yeah, it's just like, oh,
so satisfying.
It's great. It's a great feeling. Think of the most satisfying thing to you. All right, let's insert it there. All right, let's rewind the clocks back because we kind of glazed over your Southwestern career a little bit there. When you found Southwestern, how did you get recruited specifically? Who was the person that reached out to you? And like I like to ask usually about first summer experiences because that's the ones that are really more effective. So like your sales school, your first store, your first customer, your first HQ, all that jazz. Walk me through that.
So I like recruited myself pretty much. Someone had sent me a flyer. I think it was Newman. Both brothers.
Caleb Newman?
Caleb sent me the letter like, hey, what are you doing this summer? Like, what are you doing? Like, he gave me the flyer, but his brother recruited me.
Okay.
So, but that process was very weird because I didn't even really know who he was, even up to like actually leaving, because it was like 3 days before the end of the semester. And I had just gotten caught with marijuana. So I was going through.
What up, ponies? Off-schedule story really quick. I wanted to shout out Quentin Roberts' episode number 140. In it, he talks about how he built such a fantastic culture at the company, Cardinal Senior Benefits. If you want more information on that, click the link below or go check out that episode. Back to work. Knock, knock. Last off-schedule story. Guys, I want to tell you about my good friend, Alex Black. I used to work over at EnLight.Energy, and it was a pleasure working with him and that entire company. Definitely would recommend you guys check out what that opportunity is. It was a great way to make money, and it was one of the most rewarding experiences I had to help people take ownership of their power. It's pretty cool. So on that note, let's finish up this episode. Bye.
I had a presentation in my speech class saying this should be made legal. And they said, that's not a great debate topic because everyone agrees with you. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm about to go walk across campus to go tell them the same thing, but they've basically said, you need to fix this and get your shit together. Part of getting that shit together was going to the interview after I talked to the counsel for, drug abuse and et cetera, to go and do my interview for Southwestern. And when I was listening to it, I was like, this is something that's going to fix me. I need this. I need something to like get my shit together. Cause like, it was just a hot mess. I was doing things that were unproductive. They were haphazard. They were off the script. They were not part of what I had planned to do. And so I was going through a lot at that time. And it was right at the end of the semester. And I was like, I'm going into my summer with no plans. And if there's anything to go by, it's not been good. So I'm going to trust that this is the thing I need to do. And so going home, telling my parents, hey, I got caught with drugs, and them breaking down in the same breath, I said, and I'm going to go sell books 80 hours a week in a different part of the country. They're like, who are you?
Where are you?
Yeah. Like you're like both the, like burnout and the over like the top, I'm going to go do stuff person. Like where that doesn't jive. And they were very confused through tears. It was a tough moment trying to explain how I had made so many poor decisions and that I was making this very hard, what seemed to be a very good decision with my summer and not be like, oh, I'm just going to hang out and have fun. So
especially because
my-
your uncle, right? They had to
Yeah.
have known about this in some way.
Yeah. They knew about it. They knew it was hard as hell, and they knew how much he hated it and how good it was for him. And so they were very confused why all of those things he was telling me didn't convince me otherwise, when it appeared from the surface that I was lazy, unfocused, and just all over the place. And it was a lot of that Augmendino act now that came to mind, where it was a philosophy that I didn't have when I first started college, and then eventually started to say yes more, started to take action more. And then that built into my first few weeks on the book field. And I just didn't think about it. I just was like, I'm just going to go and do this. And there were people running around not doing their sales talks. I was making a flow chart trying to understand how I do this as well, because I had no idea what it was. I had been there 2 days. It was like 2 days, and then I got in a car that I just got from my parents and drove, to Tennessee to learn all this stuff. Yeah. So I was just a wreck, but I was just so focused on this one singular thing of like, I'm just going to do well. And that's it. I'm just going to do what they say. I'm going to just figure this out. And that first summer was such a roller coaster. And I have a journal. Like I don't know how many journals. I have like 10 journals over 10 years from that time, my freshman year to now. And there is a before summer Jake, and there is a during summer Jake, and then there's an after summer Jake. And people saw all of that. And I see that in all of the stuff I'll tell you in another story inside that. And I go through line by line and I read how I thought about the world at that time, and like how horribly vague it was. It was just this, it's like looking through someone's eyes that are just cloudy, and they make out shapes, but they really have no idea what it is. They have no concept of it. And then over time, like that first summer, I started to learn how to let things go. Like I would get so mad about, wealthy people telling me no at the door. And I'm like, they're just terrible.
They're the worst.
They're the worst. I'm like, they're aristocratic. I had some like term for it. And my manager's like, that's so neg. Stop that. Like, stop treating them as if they're the problem. They're probably, yeah. Like just expect that they probably are going through something and they don't need to talk to you right then, or they're not interested. It's not their fault that they're that way. And it may not be who they are day to day. And so that was something that I built into my habits, as well as just the need for schedule and to overcome so many things that just went wrong. But when I got back, I was like just a different person. People were like, what happened? Like you left for the summer semester, you came back, and now you have a laptop with an Excel spreadsheet with all of your schedule blocked out by 15 minutes. And this guy, Mike Yandre, is saying that that's a good idea. Who is this guy?
Also, Mike is awesome.
Yeah, I love
Mike.
Mike.
The second episode in a row he's been mentioned. We talked to Meredith Kelly.
Her.
Yeah, right. But not yesterday. We recorded with her. We talked about Mike. Mike, shout out again, buddy. Love you.
Yeah. So he was like helping me with schedule. And this was where that kind of technology thing slowly developed. I was, by the way, not a technology person at all at that time. I liked using the paper maps every summer until my last summer when I used the iPad. And that's the art medium I worked with was pen and ink and wood burning. And that was like the things that I did were very like hands-on. By the time that I slowly started to take those fuzzy images that I had in my mind about what the world was like and what I liked and what I wanted, over each summer and over those years, it just came into better resolution. Like I started to see things more clearly. They had edges. I could like make out what I wanted and how to get it. And that was largely because when I was selling books.
Wow. Okay, so a couple of things. Wood burning, Nathan Terborg, go check him out. He's a book guy. He does amazing wood burning work for art.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, it's pretty legit. Go check out his episode too. It's fucking incredible. He had
Nathan what?
Terborg. He came out. He overcame drug addiction. TRBORG. Terborg.
That sounds
I can never say it right because he's amazing. Great episode.
Yeah.
Two. So was there a point in your first summer? Do you have like an aha moment where you were like, holy shit? Like, I mean, I know you mentioned like when your manager said, hey, that's really neg, right? But I feel like everybody has at some point, well, not everybody, but a lot of people in their Southwestern career, maybe the first summer, maybe their second summer, I don't know. But there's a moment where they go, the old skin has to leave, and then this is how I have to become. This is what I have to become to,
Yeah.
be more of myself. Maybe it's the time you almost quit, but you didn't, or maybe it was.
I didn't know you could. I was so.
I know.
So,
same. My first summer, I was
but
like, "What the fuck?" People go home?
people leave. Yeah. Well, I didn't even notice people were disappearing. like it was
Right?
some
Because you
sort of
don't
like
know.
sci-fi.
Yeah. Because you don't know,
My-
especially I got recruited like late, like you did, and I didn't even know what an org was. Like, to be honest with you, when people are like, "This is your org," I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck that means. I knew that I had
Yeah.
my 2 roommates, but like whenever we showed up at Sunday meetings, I just thought it was just. I didn't know people had gone home. I just thought that they went and met with somebody else that Sunday meeting instead. Like, I had no
Yeah.
idea until I started recruiting.
Yeah.
Like, oh, people quit. Like,
Yeah. No, I didn't know until like I was a manager that was a
Yeah.
thing. I was like, really? Like they don't.
or
They don't.
or
They
people
just go
being off
home?
schedule. I was like, people don't
Yeah.
just people go to the movies. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if there was something that I had took with me for a long time was my just laser like ignoring. I wouldn't say focus because I wasn't focused necessarily. I was just very unaware of what other people were doing and I didn't much worry about that. I was just focused on what I was doing, although it was all over the place. The like my first summer was just approach and close. That was all I did for the whole summer. I didn't know the sales talk because I had only had 2 days and I never really took the time to read it too much after that. So I just knew the approach and I remembered how to close. And that happened many times where I just walk up and close and my manager's like, guys, sometimes you just have to do it. It's like, it's so silly. Like I just watched this idiot over here walk up and close someone at the door, and it was for like a set. And I was like, "Yeah, I thought that's just what you do."
Isn't that the thing? Is ABC,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah, always be closing. Yeah, constantly without any context. They're like, "What am I paying for?" Yeah, I learned the intro.
my college tuition.
The second
That's what
summer. Yeah, you're my adopted father. Sign here. Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
my summer selling was mostly just learning about conversation and like just sticking to it and just doing it regardless. Lots of scary driving stuff, but yeah, I mean,
Where were you that first summer?
Kentucky. I was in
Oof.
Western Kentucky. People still knew me when it was my 4th summer. I was in OL. I was in the north part of Western Kentucky and someone else was selling in my area. And they're like, this weirdo was here like 4 years ago. We bought books from him. He was cool. I don't remember anyone that summer. I think I blacked out the second half. I don't remember anything at all from like the second
Really?
half of that summer. It's just gone. Like I barely remember that I was delivering books. It was just a blur.
Wow.
Yeah. So if
That
you ask
could
me a
be-
lot of
that-
questions,
You should talk to someone about that.
I'm talking to you.
Some trauma. No, I'm like, bro. Your brain just in an effort of self-protection.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't
I think it
remember
might be.
anything.
I don't remember it. That's why I sold again. I was like, I don't remember anything that happened. I better try that again.
July to May, I've total blur. I don't know what.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Seriously
awesome.
though. Yeah, it was
That's
definitely
hilarious.
there are some key moments, but they're so far and few between. Like I remember the first sale I made and
Yes, I
I
love
just
these.
couldn't believe that they were buying books from me. And I was just so shocked. And just
That
showing
first
people.
time,
Yeah.
you're like, what? It works?
Yeah, it works. I didn't even bring the books out.
No.
I was like,
What?
I didn't have my order pad. I was like, you want to buy it? They're like, yeah. I'm like, let me go to my car. So I like left and I'm like grabbing my head like, oh my God, they bought. It's like
What
what
do I
the
do
heck?
now?
Yeah, what do I do? And I like hand them the pad and I just like let them fill it out because I didn't know what to say. I was just so lost. And then this one woman, I'd go to pull out a book. She's like, I don't want anything. And I'm like, no. And it's like, I'm just selling. She's like, no, I don't want whatever you're selling. And I pull out a kid's book. She's like, is that a kid's book? And I was like, yeah. She's like, get in here. I'm like, what? She like sat me down on the floor and I like go through all of them. And she bought the kids set. And I was like, what? You were
Show
saying
the
no.
books, baby. Show the
Just
books.
show them the books. So I was horrible about that the whole summer. That's why I was approach and close because
Oh, that's so
I
funny.
learned
dude.
bad right at the beginning. I just showed people books and closed them immediately. I'd hand it to them and then close them with it in their hands. And that was it. That was pretty much my sales talk.
Wow,
terrible.
that's exactly what. Did you hit Sizzler that summer? Did you?
Yeah, I was top first year. I was one of the. I did really well. I did a lot of sits because they were all closing.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So like, you said top first year. That's amazing. So based on that, that just goes to show, if you even don't, like, for people listening that maybe it's like they're the first week of the summer and they're listening to this, or maybe they're in their second summer, they didn't sell shit. Literally, just pull out the books
and close,
and then be like,
dude,
do you want them?
Do you want this? Yeah, you'd be amazed. It's so
this
when Mark Rao would talk about a numbers game, I got it because it was just statistically like, and there were so many weird times where I sold so many books at gas stations that summer because Amy Pagozzi was like, Jake, you didn't get your 30 demos in. You know, don't be a bitch. Go, like Mitch Johnson was talking about that. That's a great management tool for first year guys. Like just have a manager sit them down and go, don't be a bitch. Go get those 30 demos in. So I was at a gas station every night because it was an hour and a half drive to get back to my HQ from where I was working. So I was regular at this gas station and I closed full libraries at the gas station.
Let's go.
And the way that one story worked is I walked in, I just whipped out the books. I was like, you want to buy them? And this one guy's like, no, but the person next to me is like, maybe what is that? I'm like, oh, this is like a kid's library. You can like show your kids and they can read through the books. And they're like, we're just on our way to this place. Can you ship them? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I didn't know I could do that. So I just said, yeah,
of course you can. Somebody's got to. I'll do it.
I was like, you want this set or this one? He's like, I'll just take them all. I was like, what? I didn't.
It's amazing.
I was just blown away. So yeah, I stumbled through my first summer, but it was sticking to it and being coachable. I think everything that summer. Yeah.
I mean, and I'll say this, and then we can do a quick ponytail if you have like one that you really enjoy. Because we have to have you back. I need to hear about more of your summers because if they're like this, it's
just
hilarious.
a blur. But no, they get more clarity later.
but what you said right there is important because like really the real big lesson right there is there's a couple, but one that Morgan Milliken shared with us a couple earlier in the season is if you don't ask, it's always a no. So might as well ask and get told no because it was going to be that anyway. But at the very least, ask. Like you just pulled out the books and were like, hey, do you want this? No. Cool. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Like, no big deal. But even the people like right there, the person's like, wait, what is that? Like if you hadn't done it at all. Yeah. Right. That wouldn't have happened. Like, So just ask, learn to ask for the things that you want. And the people who didn't, I'm not saying that didn't sell books, don't know what it is. Even people who sold books didn't learn this lesson. And a lot of people in the world in general don't know that if you ask for something, oftentimes the answer is no, but also enough times the answer, and the key word is enough times the answer is yes. And so
it's actually shockingly yes.
Yes.
Like, doesn't make sense.
Often when it is yes, it's like, what the fuck? Like sometimes it makes sense that they said yes. They needed math help. You have math books. Cool.
Simple.
Those are not the cool stories that we hear from the bookfield. The cool stories we hear from the bookfield were like, and then I did this, like the story I have when I had a bench competition with a dad. He's like, if you bench for this, I'll buy them. And I'm like, okay. And then I did, and then he bought. Right. So like that's only happens. Yeah, it's fun. It only happens when you try to ask for what you want because most people won't. And so you ask and take it is way better than I hope it just comes to me, right?
Yeah.
Like,
no.
Go to it. Yeah, that's right, baby. So, okay, a couple of things. One, I'm not gonna do this on the air, but after this, I'm gonna make you promise me that you're gonna come back and do another episode because this has been a lot of fun.
Easy. No, it's been great talking.
And two, let's do a quick ponytail so we can get you out of here in time for your thing. But yeah, man, this has been a blast. If you can pick, it could be a short one, long one, however. It just be aware of the time, but of course this can be big customers, this could be huge moments, a lot of people stories.
Knew me as the guy without bumpers on my Corolla, so this is a fun story. My second summer, you were talking about car troubles. No bumper. They didn't smash it all together. It's just the guy with no bumpers.
The pace setter name was Jake No Bumper Hartigan.
Jake No Bumpers Hartigan. Yeah, that would have been solid.
Do you have bumpers? No.
No.
Thanks for asking.
I don't bowl with bumpers. I just right down the lane.
Hey, ask me if I have bumpers. Hey, do you have bumpers? No. Thanks for asking.
No. Yeah. So this was my second summer, and yeah, it was a paper map summer, and that's important because I had this guy Doug following me that day, and we had a lot of fun. Me, Doug, and Rodrigo Pavoa. If you haven't had him on the podcast,
No, I need to. I've been.
Yeah.
You're like the fourth person in the last month that's mentioned him, and I've seen him in pictures. Rodrigo, if you're listening, my man, we need you here.
tag you're it. Yeah. So Doug was our like third roommate, and he was just following me, and it was a rainy day. It was just torrential downpour, just a mess. And that summer had so many car problems, but it started with this. I saw that we needed to get to this house, and I'm like, okay, I can go all the way down this main highway here in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, and then I can take a right and go all the way back. But there's this old town road that it says right here, right between them. And I look over, and it's just like this barely parted tree area. And I'm like, I bet I could go through that. And that's a road because it's here on my paper map from like the 80s. It's got to be legitimate. So, and I go down this path. It's made for what I can only imagine is ATVs or horses. And I'm going through with my Corolla. There's like branches sliding by, and I'm like, I can't back out of it now. It's too slippery. Because the mud had started to build up. So, and I start going down this hill, and at the bottom, I see this massive pond. It's a puddle, but it's just so huge. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to get stuck in that. We need to get through it. So I accelerate. Doug's like plastered up against the sides of the car,
grabbing
like,
the thing, like
just like screaming. And I'm like,
like when you're driving with your grandma through a lot of traffic, she's like,
yes, it's exactly like that. We hit it and just goes whoop, boom, and then we roll up the other side. Like it kind of like coasts. There's water everywhere. It splashes up over the car, but we get over it. We get through the puddle, up the hill onto the other side, and we make it to the top. And I see steam coming out of the hood of the car. And I'm like, oh my God! So it's still running. I get out and I like pop the hood and I look at it. I'm like, the engine looks fine. Like it's all fine. I can't believe we made it through that without any problems. That was amazing. And I go to walk back into my car and I go, where's my bumper? It's just gone. The back bumper was gone. And I was like, we have to go get it. I'm not just going to leave that out there. So I didn't want to drive the car back because I was worried it was going to get stuck. So we run for like, it must have been like half a mile until I get back to just past the pond where we had dipped down. It must have knocked the bumper clean off, and it spun it because it was like several yards away from where the pond was. So I picked it up and I just shoved it in the back window, and we drove around the rest of the day with my bumper out the window of my car. And that was the first bumper. I eventually lost the other one. So I had neither the front or back bumper by the end of that summer. It was wild.
No bumpers.
Jake No Bumpers Hartigan.
Let's go.
Yeah.
We're gonna your nickname should just be Bumpers.
No.
What's up, Bumpers?
Yeah. So Bumpers.
If that would have been if I was your manager that first year, I would have just been like, oh, we're gonna call you Bumpers. Like this, you gotta put bumpers.
I will be the bumper for my car because I don't have any.
Yeah.
That's why I'm Bumpers. Yeah.
Oh, that's epic, bro. I love a good raid story. Good raid stories.
Oh, because
we all experience it.
So a 30-second story to end on was that same summer, the same car, just another problem. I was luckily with this guy who was studying electrical engineering and was a mechanic, like part-time. And we get up to the top of this hill and it's raining. And I knock at the door, nobody there, try to leave, try to start the car. And it's just, and I'm like, it's not working. Like, I'm screwed. He's like, no, it's just your like starter or something. He's like, here, give me your umbrella. Cause it was raining. He grabs my umbrella, pops the hood open. He's like, turn it now. And he just like starts hitting something in my car and it starts working. And he's like, yeah, you just got to knock it around a bit. So like routinely that day we were just knocking on my car's engine to get it to start up so we could get to the next house.
So you were leaving the house, Mrs. Jones is like, what the fuck are
What
they
are
doing?
these guys? This looks like some kind of stand-up routine. It didn't look real. We're just like beating my car to get it to move down the road because I had to hit my numbers. Eventually it gave out and we pulled into like a mechanic shop, but that was an adventure. Yeah. Lots of
What a
car
good
problems
time.
that summer.
Dude, car problems are part of the book experience. You
It's-
learn
yeah.
you learn what you're capable of
Yes.
without transportation when you need it. It's
Yeah.
really remarkable what you can find. Like, I had a 10-second story. My car broke down. I think it was my second summer. Literally at the house of a guy who's a mechanic. Same idea, same thing. Where it's
Wow.
like, I knock on the door. He's like, I'm not interested. Go back to turn my car on. Doesn't turn on. And he's like, damn, dude. And he just like fixed it for me, like right then and there. Like figured out.
Wow.
I didn't even know what the hell was wrong. Car worked great. Just wild stuff like that. Where it's like, what are the odds? You know?
Yeah,
And
that's the guy's
yeah.
house. That did happen
Yeah.
one summer. My last summer, I sold books to a mechanic, showed up at the mechanic's place because my car was broken. And he's like, I got you. He like walked out of the back room. Is like, I was like, no way. Then he like he just took off like
Steve!
half of it. Yeah. It was so
What a
great.
stud. Oh, I love it, man. Hey, well, damn. Okay. Okay. We're for sure gonna have you back on. We'll put a pin on this one here. But I want to hear more about how your app develops and stuff, and also connect you with some people that I definitely think you should talk to as far as both beta testers and stuff like that. So more on this
Yeah.
once we get off the air here. But on that note, guys, hey, we're gonna close this one here. This has been episode 173 of the Ponytails podcast with Jake Hartigan. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, everyone. Bye.
See ya. Thank you.